G'day everyone, Wesley here from the Mental Awareness Foundation, and we are coming to you with an amazing under the radar video series today. Today I have the beautiful Karien Hill. I've now pronounced it right, I hope. I must say actually mutual friends, Dan Argent. You may have just seen our recent series with Dan. Dan's a big supporter of our organisation. Had actually met Karien last year and saw a video of her and the work that she's doing, which we're about to discuss. And Karien was had the courage to reach out and wanted to, I guess, talk about her research, which is the bystanding effect. So I actually found it really interesting because, you know, particularly our message, we're encouraging people to come forward and speak up to a trusted friend or someone that they love, and perhaps particularly if they're struggling. And of course we have that message of, are you okay? However, what happens when that person actually comes to you and entrusts in you and actually talks to you about how they're feeling? Perhaps they're not doing so well, or perhaps they are really struggling with mental health. What do you do? And this is where I found this interesting, because Karien was happy to share the information about the bystanding effect. And I was actually rather shocked, because I'm like, wow, yeah, what do we do after that person comes forward? And that's what we're here today to discuss it. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Karien.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you for coming. I guess before we get into details about it, I just wanted to, I guess, talk to you, you know, what is your experience of mental health?
Well, I guess personally we all have struggles with life, stress. I've been pretty lucky to not have too many stresses in my life, but I guess probably the biggest things have been friends and family who've dealt with mental health themselves.
Yep.
and the suicide side of things, and I guess the impact of that personally,
Yep.
of coping with that and knowing, well, how do we help, how do we move forward, which
Yep.
inspired this whole thing of why I'm here.
Yeah. And I guess, why did you want to dive into mental health? Because you're studying it, of course,
Yeah.
but what was that big driver?
I guess I did a lot of travelling after high school and overseas to orphanages and rescue homes.
Yep.
for kids out of human trafficking, and
Yep.
saw the impact of trauma, and then also suicide. Friends from school, family. I just saw suffering and I just thought I have to do something. So I started studying and loved every bit of it, loved every lecture, every exam, and I've loved it ever since, and I'm just excited to do more.
Yeah, and we need more people like Karien, and thank you for sharing that. Obviously, you've got a very caring bone inside you, because obviously seeing trauma or seeing other people's struggling, you know, it can be difficult to be that person to step forward and help, and obviously you've got the courage to do that. Listen, not every day's roses. You know, we have our struggles. You know, are you happy to share any of your struggles that you've had with mental health?
Yeah, I don't think I've had anything too severe, so
Yeah.
I do feel quite lucky. I guess I've just seen the people around me,
Yeah.
and just want to help them with what I've learned in my training.
Yeah, and I guess, and that's what my next question is. I guess from your study, from the experience that you've had, you know, what are some of the lessons that you've learned with mental health?
I guess similar to the Mental Awareness Foundation and what this walk is all about is, that people see the struggle but they just have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
They just get stuck, they're scared to make it worse.
Yeah.
So that's what's really stood out to me, and what I'm all about is to educate the public so that they're not nervous, they don't back down, and let people, I guess, feel more alone who reach out, but they actually have the skills and the confidence to help.
Yeah. And what are some of your tips out there for being more mentally healthy?
Oh, so many. I think firstly, just being connected. You know, get yourself a team, a squad, a family. It doesn't have to be biological. People who have your back, hang out, do fun things together. Don't stay home, even if you're tired.
Yeah.
Do fun stuff, exercise, and do exercise you love. Some people think, oh, exercise is such a chore, but find something fun, like badminton or rollerblading, or just get out there and live life.
Ping pong.
Ping pong's your go-to.
Not so much now because it's trying to find the room for a ping pong table. But I love that social, like, because I guess our social network directly affects us, right? And we, I guess at MAF and even just myself, who you surround yourself with is really important, because I think it's important that you surround yourself with healthy people or healthier people that want to encourage you to get outside and have fun and be involved, because the last thing we want to see people do is detach. And I guess now, what do you do? What does Karien do to keep herself mentally healthy?
So many things. I love volleyball, yoga, trivia nights. I'm out most nights of the week because I just find fun things to do. Get on Facebook events. There's things happening every single weekend, every single night. So I just find things that are out there that are cheap. So much free stuff. But that'd probably be my hiking.
Hiking,
so I try get in some hikes. But that'd be my top ones. Going out for dinner, yoga and stuff. Yeah.
Actually, I was listening to a podcast, Sam Harris, and he was talking to a gentleman who did a TED talk. I can't remember his name, but they were saying the research of the mental health benefit of just getting outside and connecting with nature is huge. And you can imagine just getting sunlight on your body, but just being outside and hiking has actually been one of those things that I've actually taken up in the last 12 months. Not doing as much as I'd like, however, I've made a conscious effort to go and actually get outside and do some hikes. And it's just been magic. Have you got a favourite hike that you like?
I do. My favourite mountain is Beerwah, up in the Sunshine Coast. So much fun.
Actually, I did Mount Maroon. Have you done that one yet?
Good one.
Yeah. I did that pretty much this time last year, and it was freezing, but I loved it. So now, I guess, listen, those that are in the mental health industry, like us, we're very well aware that suicide is the biggest killer between 15 and 45-year-olds. Sadly, 8 Aussies a day take their lives. Why do you think suicide is such an issue in Australia?
I think there's a couple of things. I think that detachment you talked about is really important. I think people are staying home on technology. They're not getting out, connecting face to face, and comparing themselves. Things like Instagram, Facebook. They're following influencers and people that they compare themselves to. And they get really down about their own life. So I think the amount of time people are spending on their phones and social media. Also, I think men are obviously at highest risk. And I think it's also a bit of gender roles. Men think they have to do things on their own. They have to, carry the weight of finances and family and kids often. And I don't think they share that. They think if they do, they might seem weak. And they carry a lot alone. And I think they just get to a point where they just think they just can't do it anymore. There's just too much. So I think a lot of, just letting men and women know, it's okay to reach out, ask for help. You don't have to carry it all. And sharing the load and getting help and changing things that aren't working. So I think, there's just this taboo about reaching out, and it's definitely not weak.
Life's
hard,
weak to speak.
And we just got to realise when things aren't working and reach out, but there's still a long way to go so that people feel comfortable doing that.
It's interesting, actually, when I was interviewing Dan, our mutual friend, he was actually saying similar things, that particularly, I guess, a downside of social media is that we compare ourselves. That, we think our lives should be looking like this or looking like that, or we should have this and whatnot. And it was just interesting because I think it's disappointing, or it's sad that we compare ourselves, because at the end of the day, the person that we need to look after is number one, right? And it ain't weak to speak out, and it is really important that you do share that load. Don't feel afraid to bottle up, particularly men. I'd like to think that I'm getting a bit better at sharing my struggles. However, I must say that when I have, it does feel like a weight off our shoulders. Do you think men are getting better at it?
I do. I personally work in mental health, and I'm seeing a lot of men who are middle-aged and older, and I just think it's beautiful when they just come and share and say, look, there's just so many pressures and it's just too much and I just need help. And so I do think, people are getting better, and they're sharing with friends more. So, campaigns out there I think are working. We just need to keep going.
And I guess that leads into my next question. Yes, there is a big message of encouraging people to come forward, you know, step up, talk to someone, and then obviously that message of, are you okay? However, you know, there is this, I guess to me it's a new term, but the bystandering effect. Could you just elaborate on what is the bystanding effect?
Definitely. So the bystander effect has been found in multiple situations where there's someone who needs help, whether they're getting bullied, sexually harassed, whether they've physically been hurt, whether they've tripped over on the ground, or whether they're at risk of suicide showing signs. So the bystander effect, what it means is that most people do nothing when they see those things. So there's about 75% of people when they see someone who needs help, they don't help. And there's lots of factors that contribute to that. The more people there are, the less likely you are to help. And that's because people, it's called the diffusion of responsibility. They think, oh, okay, well, there's lots of people here, someone else will help. I don't have to, so they just assume someone else will help. They don't feel confident to help, they don't know what to do. They fear they'll make it worse. They fear they will make a mistake, or people will judge them, or they'll look funny. So there's all these things where people just take a step back and they go, oh, not me, someone else can do it. And it happens in suicide as well. So if the signs are obvious or not, people are too scared, and it makes sense that they are. It is a tricky subject. But if we're aware of that, if you see someone in your family or workplace who's maybe starting to withdraw, or they're making comments like, I just can't do this anymore, things like that, it's important to not think, oh, someone else, their family or friends, or someone else is probably helping. But to take them aside and go, hey, I noticed you've been withdrawing lately. I noticed you were saying you're feeling pretty tired, pretty overstuffed. You know, sounds like you're pretty smashed at the moment. You know, when people get overwhelmed, they can have thoughts about suicide. I'm just wondering if you've had any. It's as simple as that. It's just taking them aside, saying what you've noticed, asking that question, and then knowing what to do, and we can talk more about that in time as well.
I guess well, you may have answered this question, but obviously examples of, you know, someone that's struggling, or from what I understand called markers. You know, could you just maybe share what are some markers that you listen out for that you're like, okay, maybe I need to step forward for that person?
Yeah, it's a really good question, really important. So it can be obvious, it can be people saying, I'm just done, I just don't want to live anymore. But the more subtle things, so I look out for hopeless language. So as I was saying, things like, I can't do this anymore, I just want to escape, I just want to go away, never come back. Look out for statements like that. Behavioural things, people who are more tired, you know, having more sick days, withdrawing, not going out as often, drinking more, you know, using more substances, appearing more tired. But there are some things that the signs aren't there, but they're just risk factors. So, you know, things like a recent relationship breakup, a recent loss, whether that's someone in their family that's passed, or whether they've lost a job. A really important one is anyone who's just come out as identifying as someone in the LGBTIQA+ community.
Thank you.
They're the highest risk group. Every second person in that community has attempted suicide, so 1 in 2 people, and they are at the highest risk to die by suicide. So if someone's come out recently, it's so important. That's a huge risk factor. So to actually check in and say, hey, I've noticed you've come out to family recently, you're pretty high risk to be thinking about suicide. Have you thought about those things? So risk factors like those, of just situational things, of loss, those kinds of things, just saying, hey, have you had any of these thoughts? A really massive one is also a recent embarrassment or shame. So if they've done something that probably wasn't the best thing to do, you know, things like sexual harassment, where people, you know, have lost a job because of that. But if it's a shameful thing, huge risk. So even if you don't agree with what they've done, we all mess up. Pull them aside and say, hey, you messed up. Are you having any thoughts of suicide? And get them the help they need. They just need help to get through that.
And thank you. And really, it's about, I guess, also showing support to your friend. And you're right, maybe perhaps you don't agree with them in certain situations or what they've done, but at the end of the day, we're all human. And I think just taking that step forward to ask them, are they okay? Or, you know, are you thinking about something, or how can I help? It's really beautiful. I guess this is what I wanted to go on to is, if someone does approach you and they do open up. Okay, they're like, I am struggling, or I have thought of suicide. What is your advice to that person, rather than just obviously standing by and hearing that information? You know, what are some proactive things that they can do, or once they've got that information, what would you encourage that person to do?
That is the important next step. I guess if they have said, they've mentioned that they have thought about ending their life, really important to ask, have they thought about when or how? Have they come up with any kind of plan of actually acting on those thoughts? So simply asking, have you actually thought about acting on those thoughts? How likely do you think you are out of 10? Have you thought about any ways? If they have, if they're saying, I have thought about some ways, or if they're out of 10, that's sort of 5 and above, that increases their risk by quite a bit. So saying, I'm really worried about you, let's go get some help. You don't need to be doing this alone. So offering to take them to a GP or to a psychologist. If it's really urgent, if they're saying they can't keep themselves safe today, drive them up to hospital. If they refuse to go and you really think they're at risk, it's okay to call an ambulance. It's not fun at the time, but you're saving their life, and at that time, just letting them know it's not their job to be fighting these thoughts anymore. It's someone else's job now to keep them safe for a while. They can have a bit of a holiday and just relax, and someone else can look after them. And when people are at that point of thinking about suicide, it's like tunnel vision. They just see it as the only way out, and going to hospital, getting professional help just kind of expands that, whether it's medication, counselling, talking. It just lifts that pressure and helps them see a way out.
Do you talk, and this is just something that I'm not aware of, but would you actually talk about perhaps the ripple effect of if that person did go ahead with suicide? Is that something, boy or girl I must say, is that something that you should make them aware of, or is that maybe too intense, or is that maybe pushing them a little bit too far? Just because, there is the effect of the ripple effect afterwards, Is that something you should bring up? I'm really not too sure, so I'd love to get your opinion.
By ripple effect, do you mean the emotional impact on others?
Correct.
Or the contagion effect of others?
The emotional effect,
It's a good question, and I think different people will have different opinions. I was reading something recently of personal experiences, and they say in that moment, they actually think they're doing everyone a favour. So they actually think what they're doing is the most selfless thing rather than selfish thing. They think they're a burden. They think everyone's going to be better off without them. So telling them about, this is just going to pass on the pain to other people. For them, then they're not thinking, they're just focused on their pain and wanting to get away from it. But they also think that they're doing everyone a favour, and I've read responses that when people hear that who are having those thoughts, it's not actually helpful.
Okay.
So more
Good to know.
asking them about what has got them here, what is going on, what's hard, what are you feeling is too much, and just getting them to share that and talking about how to get them help, rather than the impact on others. I think it's more helpful.
And obviously, someone that's at the extreme end, we know what to do. We call for help or whatnot. But if you have someone that's not so extreme, they have some risk factors, what's, I guess, checking in, is it something that you should do daily, weekly, visit that person face to face? What's some advice around that?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. So if people are saying, no, I haven't really thought about, acting on these, I never actually do that, or, they're saying they're pretty safe. They're out of 10, they're kind of a 0, 1 or 2, it's still important to follow up. So, they're still at risk in future. So things like linking them, finding out, well, who's important to them. Do you need to call their family, friends, and say, hey, are you aware that they're really struggling? So getting more on board, because it shouldn't just be your responsibility on your own. So get other people involved and see who else can be checking in, because it takes a personal toll on everyone when they're supporting someone. So don't do that alone yourself. But following up, invite them to a gym class, take them some food, catch a movie, just get out and about, a phone call here and there, just so they're not feeling alone. Send them funny memes, But following up, checking in, letting them not feel alone, and connecting them with others.
And what is the benefit, by being proactive, what is the benefit for that person that is suffering? What will that be making them feel?
I think at the end of the day, everyone just wants to feel loved, accepted, valued, and that they belong. And anyone who's going out of their way to let them feel that, I think as long as they feel someone cares, they're not alone, someone's thinks they're worth their time. I think that's the biggest message you can give. You might not get it right, you know, you're going to say things or not ask the right questions, and that's okay as long as you're trying. They will. And if you say, look, I have no idea what to do here, I'm not a professional, but look, I got your back, let's get you to a professional. As long as you're trying, they're just going to be so appreciative and feel, you know, someone cares and I'm worth their time. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's just showing love, isn't it? Really, just being able to say, hey, we've got your back, we're here for you. I guess in an ideal world, if we could teach people what to look for or how to be, you know, what does that look like for you?
In an ideal world, what to look for? I guess just getting out there, you know, there's so many resources and we're working on some extra things, but really educate yourself, know exactly what they are, what all the risk factors are, the warning signs, jump online, Google, watch videos, and just for everyone to be aware of what they are and just knowing those couple of questions to ask and then what to do so that no one is left, once they have made those comments, feeling, well, no one's actually followed up, no one's actually asked me, so that they're left feeling alone. But everyone's out there. As soon as you notice just one, you don't need to wait for 10 of those signs, just one. If someone's had a recent breakup, ask them the question. So I think in an ideal world, everyone would know what all the signs are, the risk factors, and they would ask that question just with one. I think we'd go a long way to preventing suicide.
And if we come back to the most important person in the room, yourself, you know, what I guess self-awareness is the key. You know, what do you encourage people to do to be more self-aware about themselves?
I guess noticing when you're not yourself. I think a big indicator is when people get a bit more irritable. When they notice they're becoming snappy, I think that's a bit of a sign that maybe you're not coping and you need to look at some things to be cutting down on. When you're feeling tired, feeling like you can't be bothered, when you're losing kind of motivation, interest in things you used to do when you're starting to withdraw. I think being really aware of your own signs and realising what they are and then do something about it. So if you need to cut down on a commitment or take a day to just catch up on rest or just feeling productive, like you've achieved something, it's really important. So know your signs of when you're not doing too well and then know what to do that helps.
Because we've always said the number one person you've got to look after is yourself, because if you look after yourself, you can look after others. And for me, my sign, actually, I've got the Selfcritic, the judge, we call him, and when I know that he's talking quite a lot and it's a negative talk, for me, I actually slow down, I get outside, I generally go for a walk, and if I can, I actually try and get myself to bed early, really early, because I know that sleep is a big one for me, because I'm being a tradesman, I'm rather active during the day. However, I just think having that self-awareness is really important. When you're not yourself, you know, what are some of those things that you can do to get yourself back to you? And you're the only one that will know that. However, we can always encourage you to do things. Now, with your research, you know, what's next? Where are you heading with this research? What would you like to do with it? Where would you like to go?
Well, I'm near the end, have less than a year to go, and I guess I'm hoping to just have a solid evidence base that's informing education material for the public by this bystander effect, and making sure the material addresses the bystander effect and helps people overcome it. And having an evidence base for that, which I'm working on getting some papers published, having people peer review the work to make sure it's quality. And then using it, so getting it out there to the public in a free, accessible way, through technology, through flyers, through booklets. I just want to get it out there so that people are equipped and they know what to look out for and then what to do.
And you know, anyone watching that, if they want to support you, is there any way of supporting you, or can they assist with the research or anything like that? Is there anything that people can help?
Yeah, I guess a few ways. I'm currently running a study online, so if you find me on Facebook and do my questionnaire.
Awesome.
Funding for us to develop this and market it. Awareness, come to the walk. Come to the walk for awareness. Sign up. It's only what, $25 at the moment.
At the moment.
Get
Goes
on
up to a
there.
whopping
It's lots of
$30.
fun. But yeah, I think the best way you can support is just to listen to this information and then go check up on your mates and your family.
And actually, even just by pressing like or share, because it spreads this information out through the social networks. Karien, if you could get a message on a billboard, out to millions of people, or just a statement or anything, what would that be?
Very good question. I guess the first one that comes to mind is just ask.
Yeah.
So if you see one sign, just ask.
Yeah, awesome. And it's so true, guys, because at the end of the day, no matter how big you think your contribution is to this, big or small, it's worth saving. And just knowing, if you do love your friends or you do see someone that is struggling, just taking that courage to step forward and avoid that bystanding effect. Because yes, it is easy to I guess, not do anything, isn't it? To think that, someone else will take that courage and step up and perhaps be that person. But why not that be you? And thank you for bringing this information to us, because it is true. Like, I know at MAF, we encourage people to step forward and to ask, are you okay? But, what happens after that? Or if you do know that there's someone struggling, have the courage to go up to them, because, man, let's save lives. That's what we're here for. Now, you mentioned the walk.
Yes.
How many years have you been?
I think 5. It's lots of fun. It's one of the highlights of my year every year. So
yeah, thank you. Well, you would have seen it from when it was, 5 years ago, it would have been, I think, 250 people to now 2,500 people. What is it that you enjoy about the morning?
Oh, I love being by the river. The city's beautiful. Starting with the coffee, just the energy. Everyone's dressed up. There's people wearing tutus and balloons. And
yes,
everyone's excited. Got their dogs, and it's just a beautiful walk. It's just good to get out and about and support the cause.
And I guess, do you, being in the research that you're doing, is it a safe event? Do people, is it somewhere where if someone is struggling, they would feel comfortable being there?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Everyone's just in a good mood. There's music. And I guess an important thing I think everyone should be aware of that I haven't mentioned is talking about suicide doesn't increase the risk. I think a lot of people are scared because they think, oh, what if I put the idea in their head? So if you're thinking of, you want to invite someone, but there's this topic of suicide, is it going to put the idea in their head? There's a strong agreement that it doesn't, as long as you don't talk about the ways of trying to end your life. So that's the only thing that increases risk. But just talking about it, saying, these are the rates, this is what's happening, how can we make it better? It's okay. It provides relief and it brings the risk down. So I think anyone's safe to come. And it's I think great for everyone's mental health. Yeah. I always go with my work and we always say we should do this more. We don't, we're lazy, but we're working on it.
It's not lazy, I just think life sometimes can get in the way. However, it brings up the point, participation. Honestly, getting outside, participating, one, fresh air, being out in nature. 2, actually a little bit of exercise. Trust me, it's not a hard walk. It's actually, if anything, it's probably a moderate walk. There is one little hill at the end there where we assist people up, but it's not like it's going to send you backwards. But it's a participation, and if you are watching this, please grab a friend, grab your pet. It's pram, it's dog friendly, pram friendly, wheelchair friendly. We really actually encourage people that perhaps are disabled and feel like, oh, I can't do this. Yes, you can, because we actually have a route that is flat the whole way, and we just love you to come down, because at the end of the day, it's about the community of Brisbane being there, and you've been there for 5 years, so it's just a beautiful morning, and we really encourage. Now, just to go over, where can people find you again?
I guess Facebook. I don't know how to search people, but it's Karien.
Yeah, yes, maybe spell the last name, because
Yes. So it's Karien and then Haych for the last name.
Yes, awesome. Any final parting information, words you'd like to tell this beautiful audience?
I guess just don't be afraid. And if anything happens, it's not your fault. Sometimes we do ask, we do try, and sometimes we just still do lose people. So never blame yourself. We can't prevent every single suicide. Yeah. as long as we're trying, but do remember to not take any of that on board. It's preventable to some extent, but not all the time. So do what you can, and know that that's all you can do.
Yeah, and thank you, and yeah, that's awesome, because yes, it's all about trying, and you know, things do happen, and perhaps, you know, it's not great, but at least you tried, and that's all about this message about, you know, rather than be a bystander, let's go forward and at least try and help. So Sunday the 6th of October 2019, Karien's going to be there. Actually, her brother, it was your brother, wasn't it?
Brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law made this awesome video. Actually, Jaden, if you're watching this, thank you. All the dots are now connecting. But that was awesome, thank you. But Sunday the 6th of October 2019, it's the launch of Mental Health Week. Registrations are open. They're actually open right now. It's walkforawareness.org.au. Currently $25. However, it will go up to $30 at the end of the month, and then it will stay at that amount. You get a bag, you get a hat, you get a t-shirt, and you get good vibes. So that's the main thing.
Yeah.
So thank you, Karien. I really appreciate you coming here and taking the time to share that information. It's something that after you approaching us, I really wanted to talk about, and I'm so glad we got to do this video. So thank you. If you are watching, please like and share. That's, you know, if it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you do that, it just obviously assists us getting this information out there, because at the end of the day, we're trying to preserve lives and, yeah, I guess do a good job. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
More than welcome.
See you at the walk.
Yes, the walk.